Hey, I'm Darien, and welcome to Legendary Artifacts of Gaming. Today, we're talking about a sword that's near and dear to the hearts of many JRPG fans, the Masamune. The Masamune sword has shown up in many games, from Chrono Trigger to Secret of Mana, and nearly every Final Fantasy game. When it appears in a video game, the Masamune is often described as the greatest sword ever made, only capable of being wielded by a master swordsman. It's a weapon that demands respect, sort of like Excalibur from Arthurian legend, but you don't get to rule England if you have the Masamune, though at this point, would you really want to? The renown the Masamune sword carries in works of fiction is nothing compared to the reverence claimed by its real-life counterparts. The Masamune sword from your favorite JRPG is named for Japan's legendary master swordsmith, Goro Nudo Masamune. In real life, the swordsmith's creations were named after him, much like how a lot of gunsmiths would name their guns after themselves. Think Samuel Colt or John Browning. Every Masamune sword carried with it the skill and care that Masamune placed into his work. Born around 1264 AD, Masamune viewed his swords as works of art. He used the purest and most sought-after pieces of iron to make into steel for his swords. These were incredibly high standards, considering that it takes 21 tons of iron to produce 1 ton of steel. If you need to supply an army to say, I don't know, stop a Mongol invasion of Japan, getting enough good iron to make all those swords might take some time. Quality steel was hard to come by. Most swordsmiths were willing to make do with impurities. Masamune never settled, which is part of why his swords were so sought after. One well-known legend tells of a challenge posed to Masamune by one of his students, a man named Sengo Muramasa. Muramasa challenged his master to see which of them could forge a better sword. Both swordsmiths worked tirelessly and produced incredible blades. To truly test their quality, both swords were suspended in a small creek, the cutting edge against the current. Muramasa's blade cut everything in its path. Fish, leaves, even the very air. But Masamune's sword only cut the leaves. Fish swam by unharmed, and the breeze blew past uninterrupted. Muramasa, confident in his sword's superiority, began to mock his master and the sword that could only cut leaves. Then a monk, who had witnessed the whole test, approached the swordmasters and described what he had seen. The first of the swords was by all account a fine sword, the monk began. However, it is a bloodthirsty, evil blade, as it does not discriminate as to who or what it will cut. It may just as well be cutting down butterflies as severing heads. The second was by far the finer of the two, as it does not needlessly cut that which is innocent and undeserving. While the legend is merely a work of fiction, Muramasa lived 300 years after Masamune, the story highlights how revered Masamune's blades were. Before his death in 1343, Masamune crafted numerous swords in various styles. Many survived through the centuries and became prized family heirlooms passed through the generations. Sadly, following Japan's surrender at the end of World War II, Japanese soldiers were required to hand over all weapons, including their swords. A number of these swords were Masamune's. Many were melted down, and others were lost entirely. Only a dozen Masamune swords still remain. If there's one sword that could be considered the Masamune, it would be the Honjo Masamune. This is believed to have been the finest sword Masamune ever made, and was passed down from one shogun to the next through the Edo period. Considered a Japanese national treasure, the Honjo Masamune was one of the swords lost after World War II. Its location remains unknown to this day. The painful loss of these revered swords can still be seen in Japanese storytelling. There's a reason the Masamune sword so often must be found or fixed in a video game before the player can claim it. Considering the historical and cultural importance of the Masamune swords, it's not surprising that Japanese video game developers would feature such swords in their games. When used in video games, the Masamune doesn't just signify that a character is good with a blade. As the legend of Muramasa's challenge demonstrates, the Masamune swords are a symbol of dignity and nobility. Characters who wield such blades are often great heroes, such as Frog from Chrono Trigger or Alucard in Symphony of the Night. Even Sephiroth of Final Fantasy VII, one of gaming's greatest villains, wields the Masamune. But part of what makes Sephiroth such a compelling character is the fact that he was once a great hero worthy of such a blade. Claiming the Masamune in a JRPG is often a grueling task, demanding hours of grinding and sometimes even time travel. But as you now know, such a great sword is well worth the challenge. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Legendary Artifacts of Gaming. Subscribe to the channel for more great gaming videos, and we'll see you at the next level.